So, if you've been following me for a while, you might have noticed that I stopped posting just for a little bit. It's been some fluctuations. Let's just keep it a buck. I've been inconsistent the past couple months. It's causing me a lot of stress for a while, but I figured out what the issue is, and I'm gonna break it down for you because I feel like there's some other people that might be dealing with the same problem. So, real quick, before we get into that, if you don't know who I am, my name is Marvell. I am a funnel and content strategist. I help creators and entrepreneurs find custom strategies and systems that work for them and their brand, because everybody's different. Everybody needs like something that works for them, not just a cookie cutter process that everybody is trying to use, right? If that sounds interesting, make sure you hit the subscribe button. But anyway, so the reason why I stopped posting, the reason I felt like I had to pull back, is because I wasn't set up to be posting properly. That makes sense. I hope that makes sense. So here's what happened. I was supposed to leave the country. I was supposed to go live in Greece for a little while. And I had set up and got myself into a position to live that life. But that didn't happen. So I had to make a shift. That's a whole another video. If you want me to talk about it, let me know in the comments. But long story less long, I ended up having to take a step back. And in taking a step back, it gave me the chance to really realize that I've kind of just been going ever since I launched my brand. And it's been a lot of me working from a place of survival, trying to make sure I stay afloat, trying to create just to stay alive and make sure my business is like staying active, right? And when you're doing that, when you're creating out of survival and when you're creating from a place of kind of scarcity and not really abundance, you end up not having everything the way it needs to be. Everything's not in alignment. You kind of skip some steps. You might have missed putting something into place. This might not make sense for your brand anymore. Like, there's so much that comes with running your business and not having your foundation kind of set up, right? And that's what it really came down to, is I didn't have my foundation set up. I didn't have myself in a position where I can create content consistently and it will make sense for my brand, and not just by putting the content out there, but it's also going to get results. There's going to be a return on that investment, because content is a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to create content, whether that's coming up with ideas, recording, researching, editing, like all the shit, it takes time. And I'm a very big believer of making sure you're maximizing the amount of time you're using, right? So when I was able to take a step back and kind of slow down and realize like, oh, okay, I don't have my system set up to where it can run on autopilot. There's certain things in place, but it's missing a lot of things that would help me keep my business going and stay afloat. So it gave me a chance to pull back and really kind of digest and dissect and look at myself and my brain and everything that I was doing and kind of get some order to it. And with me not feeling like I was in a good place to create and especially capitalize off the time and energy that I was putting into it, it made me not want to create the content. It put me in a place where I didn't want to continue to put out content because I knew I was going to be leaving money on the table, essentially. I wasn't going to be seeing as much as I could from this content that I was putting out. And a lot of that had to do with me not having proper content strategy in place, which was only the case because I didn't go to Greece and I had to kind of switch and make a pivot. But in pulling back and taking that step back and looking at everything that was going on, it gave me that time to look at my content strategy and realize, if I want this to serve me and to be effective, I need to figure this out. I need to rehash this and kind of figure out what exactly I'm doing with my content and how do I want it to be set up so that it works and it's most beneficial for me. Hope that makes sense. So not having the right system set up is one of the big reasons why I haven't been putting out content and why I felt like I needed to pull back and kind of slow down. But it's not the only reason. Another reason is because of my environment. My environment changed so much. I went from being in my apartment and having to set up there. If you just follow me, like some of my old content, I have the red curtain and I'm either in a room or something. Like, I have so many different setups and it was always changing and always going to different places. And when you don't have a consistent space to where you can be creative, it may not hinder you, but I felt like it kind of caused me an issue. It made it hard for me to get into creative mode, because some days I was at home, sometimes I was at the library, some days I was at Starbucks, sometimes I would record in my car, sometimes I had the camera set up. Like, it was always all over the place. So it would be hard for me to kind of get into that pattern of, oh, it's time to create. Oh, this is my creativity time, because I'm in a different space every time I try and create, or every time I do some work. And what I had to realize and what I had to do for myself was realize the environment isn't always going to be perfect. It's not always going to be set up how I would like it or how I want it to be. It kind of forces you to figure things out on the fly. So I not only had to figure out how I wanted to create, but I also had to figure out where I was going to be creating, where it would work best for me to shoot and create the content. And that I had to look at myself and kind of figure out what creative style works for me, what situation works best. Am I better at talking to the camera, or am I better at like holding my phone and recording it like that? Like I had to look at myself and figure out what creative style works best for me. How am I going to use that to create the content that I want to create? That makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Another problem I had, another big problem I had, another issue I had that kept me from creating as much as I would like to and kind of caused me to take a step back was that I didn't have a routine. I didn't have like a creative routine. So not just my environment was off, I didn't have the right environment or setup like that, but I also didn't have creating as a part of my routine. What I found out is that a lot of creators, a lot of people who put out good content consistently, is that they either create every day or they have set times every week where this is their creative time, this is their writing time, this is their recording time, this is when they batch create all their videos. Like I didn't have that set up. I was just kind of doing it whenever I had the time, whenever I got the chance, or if my content ran low, if I didn't have anything, then I'd be like, okay, let me get some stuff shot. But it was never actually a part of my day-to-day or week-to-week routine. And when you don't have that routine in place, it causes a lot of inconsistency. It causes you not to be able to keep up because you're kind of playing catch up or hustling backwards, trying to keep up with what everybody else is doing. Or you get to a point where you put it off or push it off to the side because you feel like it's not as important. But content is extremely important. Okay. And then the last issue, like one of the biggest issues I had, is that I wasn't spending time actively learning. So it's not just like I had a creative blog and I couldn't put the content out. I wasn't consuming enough good content or love education or valuable content that was inspiring me or motivating me to put out content. It's more spending more time scrolling through Instagram, worrying about what other people are posting or kind of comparing myself to what they're doing, or binge watching Netflix, or hours listening to podcasts that have absolutely nothing to do with my business or my brand or anything like that. Like not spending time investing in myself and growing and expanding my brand. There's a really good quote, shout out to Neil Davis. What you tune into is what you turn into. And that just goes to say like garbage in, garbage out. Like what you listen to, what you watch, what you read, how you feed yourself with the content, what kind of content you consume, it is directly related to the kind of content that you're going to produce or that you're going to be able to put out. If you only watch trash TV, you're only really going to have trash TV to talk about. You don't have much else to talk about because that's all you consume. You don't watch any news. You don't listen to any other podcasts that are going to feed you and teach you new things or expand you or anything like that. And that was just a really big issue I had where I stopped consuming the content that was good for me, the content that was kind of feeding me and teaching me and expanding. And I was watching, call it mindless content or content that doesn't really have any substance or value. It just was giving me anything to help me grow or help my brand grow. If that makes sense. But yeah, I'm past all that. Figured it out. I've gotten myself to a point where I think I'm good. I've redone my daily schedule, my weekly schedule. I've gotten my content strategy down. I've gotten really clear on like how I want my business to progress in the future. So hopefully no more inconsistent with the content, no more taking long breaks, no more disappearing or anything like that. I'm here. I'm back. I'm here to stay. I'm here to rock this shit. It's going to be crazy. Make sure you subscribe, hit the follow. Yeah, I'll talk to you in a little bit.